Okay. The big countdown. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We'll have our administrative executive meeting, 7 December, Pearl Harbor Day, please remember. And let's see, do we have any comments from the public? I'm shocked. Okay. All right then, number 3, change board meeting times. Don? I assume this is you.
At the November board meeting, I believe it was Director Griffin had suggested that move closed session before open session. So that was requested to be put on the agenda for the December meeting, and that's why it's on the agenda. We're waiting for Jim's, any requirements that we have to do to make that change. He hasn't responded yet, but we'll get it hopefully by tomorrow.
Was the thought to have a 1-hour closed session before the normal 6 o'clock board meeting?
I was going to ask that, but how would you, with the time would probably vary based on what they thought.
Yeah, you can always start open session later. You just can't start it earlier. So, prior to litigation, 1 hour was probably pretty sufficient for a closed session, but lately, as you know, they've been longer, so be up to the board to decide. But again, you could schedule it for 5 o'clock with open session at 6, and if you don't start open session at 6, so be it.
And that's what Jim's checking, because I would think that if I was the public and I was expecting open session at 6 and you bled over to 7 or even 8 for some reason.
Well, the city does their their closed sessions before, and that comment has been made before from members of the public that they show up.
Yeah.
Have to wait for them to come out of closed
They're
session.
pretty close to on time most of the time. And
Yeah.
I think we could judge it. I don't mind. I could do it before or after. And I wonder about David, though, because of his job and such. But I guess that's his
I guess
decision.
we'll
It's
find
up
out on
to
Monday when we discuss
You
it.
folks to discuss it,
Yep.
whatever you decide to do.
I really don't have a problem with it if Jim thinks it's okay.
Yeah.
The only problem I have is that when you set that particular time for closed session, is it always going to be the same, like you said, at 5 o'clock or 4?
Just under the circumstances with closed sessions potentially being, more than 1 or 2 hours, you may want to continue for the time being just doing what you're doing. And if you have a closed session that looks like it's going to be a longer closed session, we just make a special board meeting and start whatever time we need to start. And then once things settle down, maybe you want to consider doing something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
The
idea.
other option I've seen is you start your closed session, you don't get done, you open session, do that, and then continue closed session afterwards.
Yeah, that certainly could work as well.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Go ahead and plan a closed session, let's say, starting at 4 o'clock or something. And if we don't finish everything, come back in afterwards.
Or I think you meant 5 o'clock. And
Right.
go an
5
hour,
o'clock,
and then
yeah.
you go to
Right,
open session, and you can go back into closed session.
The city's done that before.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll be on the agenda for discussion Monday night.
All right.
And do we need to do anything to make sure it gets on the agenda, or is that just,
already is.
it's automatic, right? Okay, Don's favorite topic, discussion on Senate Bill 606 and Assembly Bill 1668.
Okay, with the Department of Water Resources having released its recommendations for achieving urban water use efficiency, Aqua has resumed its meetings of the Outdoor Water Use Efficiency Working Group, and there was a web-based meeting held yesterday afternoon. It was reported during that meeting that DWR believes the recommended standards for indoor and outdoor water use for residential, commercial, industrial, institutional use could save as much as 450,000 acre-feet a year starting in 2030. State Water Board is to begin the process of enacting the regulations to ensure the rule will be in place by January 1, 2024. It's interesting, according to DWR, they believe only 80 suppliers would have to reduce their water use to meet the new standards.
Really?
During the call yesterday, Aqua, the working group leaders indicated they believe that study that came to that conclusion is flawed. And I would tend to believe that as well.
It's probably all desert water districts. I bet it is. All Southern California.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that 80 out of 440 or so are the only ones that are going to have to reduce their there's
I
consumption.
haven't been to too many California communities that look like they're taking this seriously with outdoor cutbacks. So I agree with you, Don. That's suspicious.
Aqua expressed some concerns during the meeting that the standards are infeasible, that they'll have unintended consequences, and that suppliers will have limited authority due to their dependence on customer behaviors for compliance. Formal rulemaking is scheduled for February-March timeframe, and there will be a 45-day comment period targeting the end of the year for adoption. Aqua intends to provide proactive recommendations and solutions to the state board while continuing with regular meetings to the various working groups. A schedule of the meeting dates is being developed, and the water use efficiency group meetings have been scheduled on a bi-monthly basis starting in January.
There was some rumor that the state might impose outside water meters separate from the domestic supply for houses. Is that?
That's something that has been discussed, but it's not in the current regulations.
Okay.
But yeah, that has been discussed because, as you know, with our situation, single-family residents have one meter. We don't know how much is going indoors, how much is going outdoors, and with having two different targets, it would be helpful to know, how much water is going to each use. I guess I probably can report, because it does kind of fall into this topic, that I think I wrote it in the update. We've been approached by Eagle Aerial, the company that worked with the DWR on the mapping of the entire state, literally parcel by parcel, what the irrigation requirements would be for landscape on that parcel. So they have this extensive database, and based on these regulations, the individual water districts will be responsible for determining outdoor water use for their customers. So Renee and I were on an initial meeting with them, and it was one of those things where after you sit through it, you just go, the requirements, the amount of data that's required. We came to the conclusion very early that we don't have the staff or the time to do everything that needs to be done to comply with this. So after we sat through it, Ty and Jason came in with us. We had a second presentation. I think they had the same reaction, that we really don't have any choice but to engage with them, to work with them. They have the capability of what's called Water View, I think it's called. Water View, similar to Water Smart. Water View. You can actually, they have the database to determine individual targets for each parcel, and then through their software, you can basically find out who's using more water than their target. It's a little concerning. Yeah, that was my reaction, exactly, Big Brother. When we saw that, they pulled up a graphic that showed, for example, Tustin area. It was just an example, and they were showing areas that were out of compliance. And I said, so this shows you whose doors we need to go knock on? They said, well, that shows you where you need to focus your conservation messaging. But
There's so, first of all, it's a procedure I saw that I think you guys put together. I don't know if you put together, the state put together. That's for tracking the number of the family, how big their swamp cooler is, how efficient it is, how big the land there is. I mean, it's a very onerous type of thing that you would have to go through. In fact, I think I made a comment at the time, maybe you'd have to hire new staff just to keep up with that. And I so many unintended consequences here, because you're not gonna have policing power. If you knock on my door and say, you're using too much water, I say, so what? What are you going to do? Send a water police out and shut my meter down? I do not believe. Well, you never know. This state might
lock you off
or something like that.
I don't know,
but have they come to any conclusions on outdoor water use yet? In other words, I saw that the calculator and everything for it. It's
no, and actually clarify, the work that we have to do is related to commercial and institutional.
Okay.
We don't have to do residences, but we have to do our own research on commercial and institutional. As I said, they've got all the information. We don't have the expertise, the time, the staff to do this stuff. So they offer this product out as an annual subscription, 3 years or 5 years. I've got the proposal, the contract, I've sent it to Jim, I told him, don't spend a lot of time on it, because I've gone through it, it's pretty straightforward, but I always like to have Jim look at our contracts. But talking to staff, to Ty, Renee, Jason, we don't see any way that we can't not, sign up for this.
Wow.
So it's
It's
kind of,
It's gonna be
we've gone from, from water districts being a service organization to being more of an enforcement organization.
Yeah.
Police state, yeah.
police state is what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't see, what did we first read? What would be the fine? It's a daily fine every day you're over the 10,000.
10,000, yeah.
That's
I
right.
believe it or not, I was talking to someone about that long when it first started coming up. They go, why doesn't water districts just figure in $10,000 a day, put it in the budget and start billing everybody for it? Well, if you think about it, if there's non-compliance out there and you have no policing power, you're paying the fine. And the bottom line is what does the law say about passing those kind of fines on to your customers? Which they probably say you can't, and yet they're the ones responsible for it. So this whole thing is
Well, the money's got to come from somewhere.
gotta come from somewhere. And literally, they said, they said, what would it amount to if we had to pay $10,000 a day? I said, I mean, is it a day? It's not a week, right? It's a day?
Yeah, it's a day. And is it fair to pass that on to everybody
Yeah,
when
exactly.
not everybody's out of compliance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sure,
I said,
too.
what do I mean? I said, well, add 30 or 40 bucks a month for your water bill.
I don't know, it's what, $3.5 million a year,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I guess, but as a contingency, if we are gonna receive fines, we gotta somehow put it in the budget eventually.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put it in the budget somehow.
Yeah.
And like you say, is it right that everybody pays it because you have a few that ignore it? And that's why I'm so anxious to see what they come out with outdoor water use. And I don't know, they decided they were gonna put swamp coolers in outdoor or indoor. What, I can't remember what that,
It's indoor,
okay.
yeah. And, when I talked about Aqua's committees, there are something like 7 different committees that are looking at all the aspects of this legislation. So you've got one looking at variances, one looking at outdoors, one looking at total use, and so.
Is there a
This is
group that's looking at pushing back on the state's onerous requests for?
Well, yeah, that's what, as I said, they've got some concerns about the ability of suppliers to even enforce this because it's dependent on customers' behaviors. It's what did I say? I can't find it in my notes now. Oh, unintended consequences, the standards are infeasible.
Yeah.
They're looking at establishing a water landscape efficiency coefficient. I believe they're considering 0.8. Efficiency for irrigation systems. In other words, some of the water that you're using with your sprinklers is probably not going on your landscaping, so it's a efficiency
see.
of 0.8 coefficient. Yeah, and as far as targets, and this gives you a little question when we're talking about noncompliance. This was something that Aqua was pushing for, but it seems like, I think it's in the DWR recommendations, is that you have your irrigated land, you have your irrigable, non-irrigated land, and then you have your non-irrigable land. So they're looking at, within your landscaping, they're looking at providing a buffer of 20% of your irrigable but not irrigated land. So if you don't make your target, you can draw from that 20% buffer, if you will, so that you could still be in compliance.
But how does everyone know that individually?
Well,
that's
it
the
wouldn't be,
issue.
but as a district, we
Oh, as a
would
district, I see
we would
what
look
you're
at our irrigated,
That's right, yeah.
irrigable, non-irrigated land and say, we've got a 20%, whatever that square footage or acreage is, that's our buffer.
I just
and
picture a
protection.
water district police force all of a sudden. You go into it, have your little badges and go door to
Oh, we
door.
could get uniforms.
We'll give them a gun with one bullet in their pocket.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
One bullet per truck.
Well, when this started back when they first came out with these bills that were passed, we knew it was gonna turn into a mess. I mean, probably every water district knew it was gonna turn into a mess.
Well, it might be worth, us putting our heads at trying to figure out what is a reasonable approach so that we could at least submit something to this Aqua working group.
Pay
that
the
they can
fine.
defend.
Just plan to pay the fine.
Yeah, whatever it is, right? So
It's summertime, we're gonna be paying a fine.
something we could live with.
Yeah.
It's not obvious to me what that would be, but maybe the outside meter installation is a, you know, a jagged pill we have to swallow, but at least then you'd have the data on, you know, what's going to landscaping and what's going to household use, but the expense is, I mean, how much does it cost to put in an extra meter? And the plumbing and, I mean, it's all,
yeah.
At every house, and, yeah,
it's, yeah.
Hate to say budget billing, but a lot of agencies are going to that. I know, where they, give an allowance for
Mhm.
certain amounts of water, and you have to
Right.
apply for variance if
Oh, yeah,
you have more
that's-
people or animals or whatever.
Budget-based billing that we
Yeah.
talked about a couple, 3, 4 years ago. But when I investigated that down in the Lancaster Palmdale area,
Palmdale's done it.
yeah, I was looking at what they allow for acreage, and for my acreage, for a 2.5 acre plot, it was something, it was like 160 HCF per month I was allowed, or almost 200. I'm saying,
That's a lot.
I don't use that at all, so, but within their system, it was like that. So I think that budget base is gonna get modified quite a bit as well, I think.
They're not gonna be able to allow that much
They
water.
won't be able to allow that. And I don't know how they base, I saw the formula for it, it's based on the weather, and it's based on how much, the amount of the property, and they assume so much of it has trees on it, and all kinds of estimates they make. And that's what you're doing here. You're gonna be doing or the state's gonna require a lot of, I'll call it guesstimates. You're gonna have to come with what's going on at that property without spying on them. You start seeing,
Well, that's
unless
what-
you're gonna spy on them.
That's what Eagle Aerial did. is
Yeah.
They spied on everybody and made calculations on how much of that parcel is irrigable or, irrigated now, could be irrigated, that kind of thing. So we have all those numbers by parcel.
So I noticed this isn't on the board meeting agenda. Or did I miss it?
It would get into a very long discussion if it was, I can tell you that.
Well, but it's a discussion I think probably needs to be had. I don't know.
I believe that what should be happening, it should just be an update from Don on information that he has, the newest
it'll be in
information.
the notes from the meeting will be in the board packet, but again,
Okay.
I'm not so sure,
From this meeting?
yeah.
It will turn into a very long, you're right, it needs to be discussed, but I'd be afraid, the only way I think that it would work is that if we limited a discussion to whatever points Don would bring forward from any meetings. Because we're doing it here, what if they do this, and how do we do this, and where do we go with this, and we could talk about this for 3 hours.
Yeah, it might be a special.
Well, there's a workshop coming up in January.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good one for the workshop.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe just mention that the Aqua Outdoor Water Efficiency Group has been meeting and that you've been
That's a good
participating.
suggestion.
And you can also put the January 1st, 2024 deadline for beginning whatever they're gonna begin, and leave it at that. So it's due to start then, and
So who's going to be sitting in on this panel once you retire?
On these committee meetings,
you
that's probably gonna be discussed Monday night,
yeah.
to be board.
You are.
decision.
Thanks for volunteering.
How often are they? Are they monthly or?
It depends on the committee, the overall outdoor water use efficiency group, I think they're bi-monthly meetings, the first one's in January, then it'll be in March and so on. I think from what I saw, the thing is they're scheduling them during the second Wednesday of the month, if you know, that's the GA board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They're from 10 till noon, and that's exactly when the GA board meets,
Yeah.
so.
Is Aqua just trying to affect change in any, I guess it's procedures, tracking, or are they actually trying to affect change in the law itself? Do you know?
Well, they can't
They
change
they
the-
can somehow request that some modifications be made to the law in terms of legislation. Are they
I
requesting?
don't think they can change the law per se, but they can change how it's implemented, how they comply with
Because
it.
they're setting the levels of usage, right? DWR is.
Those have already been set,
Yeah,
and the governor signed off on that. Senator Hertzberg,
yeah,
I forget what the bill number was.
right.
But yeah, they reduced it from 50 to 42 ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's already been signed into law.
Some tells me the state stands to make a lot of money from this in fines throughout the state, yeah.
Certainly could. I'm sure that's not their motivation.
No, never. All right. That was funny.
All right, well, I think the horse is still dead, so we can probably move on to reviewing the agenda. Item number 5, right? Just to make sure, I didn't see anything that needed to be changed other than perhaps this topic, and we've just discussed that. So since it's in the board package, I don't see any changes necessary.
I think it'll just be one of those update things that is given where we're, based on the seminars.
And Don has his GM.
Did you say there's a seminar or something on these bills when, in January, or a workshop, or what was it?
That our board has a workshop in
Well,
January.
your board has a workshop. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought-
you have a workshop in January.
no one told me about a workshop. I haven't seen
Annual
the Janu-
workshop,
I haven't
remember?
seen a January calendar yet.
January and July, you don't remember?
It's on your agenda here to set the
February-
date.
Never mind, it's been so long.
So is the workshop talked about already?
Yeah.
Let's see, how did I miss it?
It's number 3 under the general manager
Yep,
staff
there it is.
update.
There it is. Okay, so we will have a chance to
Kick
establish
off
what
the
our
new
goals are
year.
next week.
All right, yeah, okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Any edits or comments on the agenda, Don? Or Don or Ron?
Whatever my name is?
Whatever.
The guy to my left, yeah.
Jason?
I don't have anything.
Okay, how
I'll
about
just mention, I don't know if you've seen your email, but I did send you an update of the Kern 30-inch pipeline
Oh.
status, what's going on there, just so you're aware.
Okay, good. I'll look it up. Thank you.
Just some bullets for key actions, things that are going on. A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I bet there is. We've at least identified somebody who can come in and do the repairs. That's right?
Yes.
Saturday, okay.
Bring your shovel. Bring your shovel. Yeah.
Okay then, future agenda items. None? Okay, well, I guess I will declare success at 20 minutes after 3. Meeting closed, thank you.